yesterday we talked about some of my preferred loadouts here for Warzone now after the update, in which it's refreshing to use other weapons besides the DMR, Diamatis, and Type 63. And of those loadouts, we talked about one specific MP5 class, but when you consider Warzone right now, there's a few weapons that there's two of them. There's the MP5, the AK-47, and a few other comparable builds from weapons from Modern Warfare to Cold War, and while they look the same, they're not exactly, and the MP5 is a good case of that, where one definitely stands out more so than the other. There may be a minimal difference, sure, but a difference no less that I think can push you from using one over the other. So today, we're gonna take a look at the differences here between the MP5, which one you should be using of the two, and why exactly you should be doing that. As well, as we go along, let me know down in the comments below, would you guys like to see more weapon comparison videos like this, and which MP5 are you using, if any? Feel free to let me know, but as well, if you are new to the channel, do be sure to subscribe button. We're on the road to 400,000 subscribers, and we'll keep you up to date with all things Cold War, Warzone, and anything COD related. So if you're interested in joining the community, I'd love to have you. That said, let's talk about these weapon breakdowns and how they stack up one-to-one. So let's take a look at some of these weapons from a base level firstly, because at first glance, shouldn't they be relatively the same? I mean, they're the same weapon after all, just different games. But each do have specific differences that make them better or worse than the other. So starting out from a statistical baseline here of this, the base weapons, nothing attached on them or anything like that. Let's talk about the ADS firstly, and then work our way through some other attributes you may care about. Functionally speaking, the difference is pretty nominal. Cold War's MP5 comes in at around 208 milliseconds, while Modern Warfare's comes in at around 192 milliseconds, literally just one frame of difference from my testing. As for the reload testing, we did a little bit here to shave off some of the excess and redundancies in terms of the timing for the reload, because there is a part of the animation that can be canceled and still achieve that reload goal. So we took the time from the first hand movement of the frame to when the new magazine is loaded and visible in your HUD. Afterwards, there's a few millisecond animation that returns you to position, but that piece can be canceled in a number of different ways and doesn't change the fact that your ammo is already reloaded. But anyways, Cold War's MP5 clocks in at about 2.4 seconds on a reload. Modern Warfare's clocks in at about 1.73 seconds on a reload. And then for comparison, if you do see those reload animations fully out, those values change to 3.35 seconds and 2.96 seconds respectively. So you can see why canceling a reload animation after the process has been completed is something you may want to consider doing. As for the recoil, well, the recoil patterns are something that are really big for the MP5 overall, because it's what made the MP5 such a decent weapon choice from the very beginning. It's impressive in close quarters, yes, but even at some mid-range scenarios, it's a golden choice because of the recoil. Now, it is important to note that the weapon was such a good choice because of a system introduced a few years back called predictive recoil, meaning that every single time you shoot a weapon, it will have the same recoil pattern. So you can shoot the MP5 1,000 times and still have the same result. You can shoot the M4A1 1,000 times and still have the same result. You can shoot the Grau 1,000 times and guess what? You'll still have the same result. Modern Warfare's MP5 recoil was incredibly easy to control, where you just had to slightly pull down on your right thumbstick as the recoil pattern was up and to the right slightly. So incredibly slight compensation was needed, so much so to the point that even myself, who has quite a bit of gameplay where I whiff shots left, right, and center, I've been accused in the comments of using cheats, which is kind of crazy to me, but it's literally the easiest weapon to control in Modern Warfare's weaponry. But as for Cold War's, well, it's actually even easier to control. The recoil pattern is no exaggeration, straight up. And the best part about that is that at a point it hits a ceiling, a point where it does not continue to shoot your aim up further, it just stays there. Now, that's about the only part that you'll need to consider when learning the recoil pattern for the Cold War MP5, because you pull down and there will be that point where you kind of actually drop below and you almost go negative when accounting for it. So that kick will become non-existent and you may just need to let go slightly and you'll stay on target. Now, of course, you can kit these weapons out to adjust them differently. Of course, that's the entire purpose of this. You can end up adding damage range, bullet velocity, ADS time, stuff like that. And that really all comes down to how you want to kit out a weapon, though do bear in mind that Cold War weaponry does have quite a few attachments that are either broken and do not do what they say at all, or have some different effects than what are advertised. Now, where these two weapons really go head-to-head in a fight comes down to the functional use of the weapon while considering things like its damage attributes, among other items. The damage attributes, as tested by the legend himself, JGod, link in the description below if you guys want to check out his channel, the damage attributes are very similar, though slightly edged out by Cold War's MP5. Now, both of which have about a 6 to 8 shot to kill requirement when using them at close to medium range, but it really comes down to the TTK, or time to kill. Cold War stays in line with a 6 to 8 shot to kill across both strictly close quarters and also close to medium quarters. Modern Warfare, though, does drop off eventually to 7 to 9 shots, which is where you'll see these differences come into play. But the close damage TTK is 350 milliseconds with headshots and 490 with chest shots introduced, functionally translating to about a half second in terms of time to kill with the Cold War MP5. Now, Modern Warfare's close damage TTK is 376 milliseconds with headshots and 526 milliseconds with chest shots, making that 26 hundredths and 36 thousandths difference respectively, which absolutely can be a difference in gunfights despite not seeming like a huge difference at all. Gunfights quite literally come down to a fraction of a second in a lot of cases. Then where it will break down a little further and that gap starts to widen is at the close to medium range, meaning not right on top of an enemy, and where those distances start to get a little larger, where the damage drop-offs start to come into play. With Cold War's TTK at that point logging 350 milliseconds and 490 milliseconds in terms of headshots versus chest shots. That's a no difference change because that damage drop-off is extended in terms of that distance compared to Modern Warfare's. But when you take a look at Modern Warfare's MP5, that logs in at 451 milliseconds and 677 milliseconds for a TTK of headshots to chest shots respectively. So that gap really starts to open up at that mid-range, which is where I'd wager that most SMG fights take place in Warzone. A very, very large map by comparison to any 6v6 map we've seen within Cold War or Modern Warfare, and where you challenge something that isn't right on top of you. So that close to medium range is where you're really going to want to focus on a lot, and why Cold War's edges it out at that point. As for things functionally like the recoil pattern, again, I'd take the Cold War weaponry because it is straight up versus up and to the right. A lot easier to control whenever you start to get at a distance here with that. So absolutely something that, again, I think takes the slight edge. The reload speeds here at this one are very comparable. Modern Warfare's real attributes here come into play with the quick draw style of gun up approach, but if you have your gun up and you are ready for an engagement, Cold War's is absolutely the way to go. Now, the weird thing about the reloads and why we didn't really touch on it here a ton outside of the base level is because Cold War's magazine attachments that claim they're fast mags actually don't work right now. They're broken, in which in the future they should be working, but they offer no functional difference in terms of reload speeds, whereas you can offer up sleight of hand as an attachment on your Modern Warfare MP5. So that one really comes down to it. So when it comes down to my recommendation here, not only is it fun to use a brand new weapon, I think, but I would absolutely recommend at least trying out the Cold War MP5 because it can edge out that MP5 as that reliable secondary ever so slightly. Now for Cold War, I'd end up running a couple of different things here on this one. My main build for this is the Agency Suppressor, the 9.5-inch Ranger Barrel, the Field Agent Grip, the Salvo 50-round Fast Mag, and the Serpent Wrap. The Agency Suppressor giving us a little extra sound suppression and damage range for some slight sacrifices in aim down sight speed and aim walking steadiness. The 9.5-inch Ranger Barrel offers bullet velocity and aim walking movement speed, and I chose this over the Task Force and the Reinforced Heavy Barrel because the Task Force has been broken among other attachments since the integration, and half of what's on offer isn't really being granted. The Reinforced Heavy just has more trade-offs compared to the 9.5-inch, and the differences are nominal. The Field Agent Foregrip offers up additional vertical recoil control and horizontal recoil control, which that part is a little bit redundant since, of course, there is no horizontal recoil, but the vertical recoil control is definitely nice, and you only have a slight adjustment in the loss for the shooting move speed. The Salvo 50-round mag offers what is advertised as additional magazine ammo capacity, reload quickness, the max starting ammo, and ammo capacity, but again, 3 of those things right now are bugged and won't be an immediate changeover you end up seeing, but it's a good way for correctional or future-proofing on your loadout, because whenever they inevitably change this and actually fix it to offer what is said, that's something that, just like the monolithic integral suppressor for the MP5 in Modern Warfare, this is a 2-in-1 offering where you end up having that sort of sleight of hand-esque style of reload speed bonus, but also you end up getting more ammo as well. And then that Serpent Wrap offers more aim down sight speed for a slight penalty in the sprint to fire time. And I choose this over the Airborne Elastic Wrap because the differences in the ability to mitigate flinch resistance and the ability to go prone while aiming are way too small compared to the offsetting negative attributes to the shooting move speed and the sprint to fire time. So for that, only losing a little bit in the sprint to fire time, but also getting the most aim down sight bonus is definitely something I can get on board with. But when it comes to the MP5 for Cold War and Modern Modern Warfare. Again, I think the Cold War MP5 just slightly edges it out. And the MP5 being that weapon that is incredibly versatile, incredibly reliable in a lot of gunfights through year one of Modern Warfare and pre-integration, using something that just takes that a little bit further and adds a little bit more damage over some more range and some other reliable attributes is definitely something that I think is worth trying out. Of course, the MAC-10, the Diamatis are still the main meta right now, but once this shift happens, once those get nerfed once again, I think that the MP5 will once again become one of those reliable meta weapons. And if you have, again, the better opportunity here, as we mentioned, gunfights can come down to a fraction of a second, so choose that one that gives you the little bit of a bonus. That's where we're gonna wrap it up. Just want to take a little bit of a look here at both of these because I was playing around with the MP5 in both categories, and I was really wondering which would be the better option here. So figured, why not try it out, share the results with you guys. So hope this helps you out in some way, shape, or form. Let me know your thoughts down below. Firstly, would you like to see more style videos like this, some versus content? Would you like to see some more in-depth breakdowns? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, though. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you get subscribed so I'm a single thing regarding all things Black Ops, Cold War, Warzone, and anything COD related. We'll keep you up to date with all of it. So if you're interested, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. I live on both those. So if you guys want to check out a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.